Hello, everybody, and welcome to this. And this is, yes, we're back to talk about X-Men on this channel. Obviously, I've had the kind of ones over the year where I've just spoken on myself, just, sit down for 5 minutes of recording stuff, but it's been, a good 6 months at least, I want to say. Probably.
I think it's like every 6 months we do a video.
Yeah, something like that. It's the last one we did together was, of course, the last X-Men Roundtable and the Man of Steel review, which was during the summer. So it's been a while, but we are back, myself and Andrew. Hello, Andrew.
Hey, everybody.
So, yeah, we're back here finally. Now, we were obviously discussing doing the next X-Men Roundtable and doing the last one and all that stuff. But when I sort of started thinking about it, it's like, wow, not only have I missed huge gaps of this past decade, two, I want to try and see whether I can finally get some new people since the roundtable has always had a lot of turnover. Andrew wasn't even here for the first one, but he's become kind of the constant, and I think we may have lost Ben now, so I need to try and recruit and get some more people, so it's a round table and not just a square table.
They may not survive the experience, though.
No, we keep killing them off, and I guess we're the survivors, the Cyclops and the Wolverine that are always the constant throughout all the teams.
It's hard training, man. Getting onto the round table is just a hard training experience.
Absolutely, yeah. So if you're listening to this, you want to be on the show, if you've got a good mic and you've got Skype, send me a message. I'll be happy to put any new people on. But regardless about that, the other problem, of course, is that I haven't finished reading the latest crossover, which is, of course, the Age of the Atom. Battle for the Atom, sorry.
Yeah, that's what it is, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't finished reading that yet, so I want to be up to date. I want to get all refreshed. And another thing is also I haven't, I've dabbled in and out of it, but I've not been, super up to date, the week of the release of the comic. I read it, that kind of thing. I've just been kind of going here and there over the past year and kind of delved out of it a little bit. So I want to immerse myself back into that world, because otherwise you're going to get a lackluster roundtable because I won't have much to add. So what we decided to do instead was, obviously over the summer, I released a sort of anticipation video where it was just me going, wow, oh my god, it's going to be the ultimate X-Men film about, all the news that come out about this film. But a lot's happened since then, in that we've got a trailer, we've got a kind of a second teaser trailer, very much along the lines of what Matthew Vaughn said his initial idea for the movie was, which was the JFK and Assassination thing. So they are bringing in that element, which is pretty cool. So we've had a lot of that, we've had a lot of news about it and all that kind of stuff, but also obviously to get Andrew on here. So I wanted to do a roundtable where we talk about, what we're expecting for the movie, how we think the movie's going to be good, how the Wolverine I placed that, because that came out. A lot has happened since the last time I spoke about this. So let's begin with it, shall we? And Andrew, I'll go to you first. Your general thoughts on what's to come.
Yeah. Now, how long has it been since X-Men First Class came out? Was it
2 years?
Yeah, it's been a long time. And the last time, I think X-Men First Class is one of the best X-Men movies to come out in forever.
Oh, yeah.
By and large, I think it's just a fun movie. Anything X-Men, there's a ton of stuff that's X-Men related in it, while doing new things that weren't in the old films that made it interesting. With this movie, I do think it's Bryan Singer, right? Yeah, it's Bryan Singer who's in charge in this one, I think almost completely. He's just taking care of directing and producing. And it seems like he's like, well, yeah, okay, you had your turn, Matthew Vaughn, but I gotta at least have some fun with this one too. It's my turn now. And he just kind of pushes the stuff that he did aside. I think there's still gonna be elements from X-Men First Class in it, but it's just him doing what he wanted to do.
Well, that's down to Vaughn more than anything, because of course Vaughn's kind of signature thing to do now is get on a movie, get into production, and then go, no, I don't want to do a sequel, and then drops out of it.
He's been doing that a lot too.
Yeah, he did that with Kick-Ass 2 as well, and people in Hollywood are rightfully getting annoyed with him for it. But from what I understand, he does have a script writing credit, so some of his ideas, as we've seen with this latest JFK video, because when the First Class came out and people were talking about what would a sequel be, Matthew Vaughn came out and said, I would like to do one where it's about, Magneto has possibly been involved with the JFK assassination. Because, of course, that would round it still in the 60s and all that kind of stuff. So obviously that element is still there, and I think that Singer likes and respects what Matthew Vaughn did in First Class, by the fact he's including First Class in this movie, because, by the time that X-Men First Class came out, they were talking about doing a straight-up X-Men 4. And it seems like what they've done with this movie is what they did with First Class, in that First Class originally was X-Men Origins Magneto, and they just took what they had for Magneto and merged it in with X-Men First Class. Whereas I think in this movie, they wanted X-Men 4, but they also wanted a First Class sequel, so let's put the two together and have both. And as I've said, when I've just been kind of on my last video, I was more kind of just reacting to the news and going, oh my god, like.
Yeah.
This could go horribly wrong because there is so many characters.
Yep.
I mean, I know that's X-Men's thing, but there are so many characters that could go so wrong.
That's the same thing that went wrong with Origins.
Yeah. Well, I know that and the directing and the script and the acting and
those were the two elements in it. Yeah.
Everything went wrong with that movie. But no, the thing with it, for me, is that if they get it right, they are building this and are deliberately designing this to be the ultimate X-Men movie. That's how it's being built. The idea is we're going to take the First Class, the original, put them together. They're finally going to do Sentinels. They're finally going to do time travel. They're finally do all this stuff that they've not done in the X-Men canon. They're finally going to do all this big epic stuff that's never really been part of the movie version. And finally do it all. And at the same time, it's Singer's return to the franchise. It's Singer saying, okay, I'm coming back. And he very much has openly said on con panels and stuff that this is him almost rewriting what was done wrong in his absence. He hasn't said the words, but he pretty much has said, I'm going to correct X-Men 3 and X-Men Origins, which I don't think anybody has a problem with.
Some guy in the background's like, you can't do this.
Yeah,
it's unacceptable.
Heard that. Yeah, I was like, "Are you kidding me, pal? Like, you liked what they did with the Dark Phoenix in that movie?" If I mean, I've heard the rumor that they might just straight up hit the reboot button and annihilate all the movies 1, 2, and 3.
Thinking about like that after all the stuff that's kind of happened, like rewatching X-Men 1, I wouldn't mind seeing what they would do now with it. If they had to completely just reboot everything, I would be really just interested to see what they would do.
Yeah.
Because X-Men 1 it was its own universe and its own version of the characters, but X-Men 1 really just took its own, like, drive down like a highway and just did its own thing. That's a really weird comparison, but I think with this film, if they get a good grasp of the new characters coming in, which I doubt they will, because they even from the trailer you can tell they're just gonna be background characters, and all the characters that were in from like X-Men 1 and 2 and even 3 are gonna get more screen time than others, but it's gonna be based on Magneto, Xavier, and Wolverine. I can tell just from watching it.
Which sort of whole franchise has been, really.
Which has kind of annoyed me a bit, because Wolverine always, this is a big thing that everyone talks about, but Wolverine is a character that always gets his own, like, role in a movie, but he's always, like, the main one. It's usually, they should have retitled some of the X-Men movies to be just Wolverine and the X-Men.
I can understand that argument. What was refreshing about First Class was that it wasn't a Wolverine movie.
That was the best part.
And that was great and everything. But if you're going to have Wolverine in it, if you're going to pay Hugh Jackman the money that you're going to pay for him to be Wolverine in this movie, of course he's going to be the main character. I don't, everybody loves Wolverine despite how much, we may have fatigue for him. I mean, some people don't like him, but most people like Wolverine. And as much as if you're going to have Hugh Jackman in the movie, he's going to be the main character. Now, of course, that comes into what they've changed, which is they're using Kitty Pryde's powers, which is what happens in the comics to go back through time or whatever, but they're doing it to Wolverine instead of her, which, I know people, again, the whole Wolverine and the X-Men argument, but honestly, it's the only character that makes sense to do it with. Because I don't think people care enough about Ellen Page to have her be the main character.
If she was pregnant, they would care more. If she was actually Juno in this movie, it'd be a very interesting twist.
With the Colossus kid or something.
Michael Cera shows up and goes, "We need to talk." Yeah.
But no, I mean, the whole thing for me is it makes sense because also the whole thing with his young body. The whole fact that you could have Wolverine is around in both time periods looking relatively the same, even though apparently in the new movie he's got white streaks because of stress or something. But, that's harkening back to the original comic, obviously. But that comic was wrote before the whole thing about him being alive in the 17th century came in. So how he aged so much in 20 years when he stayed looking the same for 200, who knows? But again, stress, I guess. But, I mean, to me, it makes sense for the fact that it's Hugh Jackman. It makes sense because it's the marketable character. And it also makes sense because in the story world, Wolverine exists in both time periods. The whole thing with the original is that Kitty Pryde was alive in both timelines, so she went back into her old body. Well, Kitty Pryde isn't even born in the 70s.
Yeah.
So who's the only character who is, or at least is of age that can...
It's Wolverine.
It's Wolverine. So
Yeah.
there's no other way to do it.
It does make it, in a more logical movie sense, it does make more sense.
Mm.
Yeah, I do think, yeah, I don't it basically does just kind of nail it down. It relates back to the Days of Future Past storyline while also making sense on a more movie-based note. I just hope they don't put too much focus on him, which they're probably going to anyways. I was going into about how we've basically been building up to, like, finally seeing what a Sentinel could look like, and the only robots we've actually seen have been, like, a Silver Samurai robot, and then two other instances which aren't technically, well, X-Men 3, The Last Stand, where we see a Sentinel head, and this one doesn't really count, but like in the X-Men Origins Wolverine game, there's just a giant Sentinel robot you have to fight, and that's the closest Sentinel we've actually gotten in the X-Men movie universe. That looks like a
that was
Sentinel.
out of canon. It's definitely out of canon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it doesn't really even count anymore.
Yeah, but now that's been the best thing when they've released the images. I'm like, well, Bryan Singer's known for changing things, making them a bit more practical. Then you look at them and go, oh my god, they're actually going with purple. Like they actually are.
Yeah.
They look like Sentinels.
They
big,
went with the purple
purple.
Magneto costume too. They're making it look good. I don't know.
I do love that the one in the future isn't wearing his helmet and the one in the past is, because I think even Singer admits that the first class helmet just looks so much better.
It does. I think the first class helmet just looks more like the comics, in my opinion.
It is the Magneto helmet as opposed to the one from the original movie, so it's just a bit weird. I never really liked the way that one looked.
Yeah.
But I again, the fact they're finally doing Sentinels, and that comes into obviously talking about the trailer, is that a lot of people are like, well, where are my Sentinels? That kind of thing. But this is the first trailer, so of course none of those opticals have been done yet. There's been reports coming out that this is going to be Fox's most expensive movie ever.
Really?
Or 20th Century Fox's most expensive movie ever. That's what I heard, or at least one of one of those most expensive. Which you listen to it and you go, wow, but then you think about it, hiring all these actors, Patrick Stewart,
really
Ian
expensive.
McKellen, Hugh Jackman, and then on top of that, everybody else you want to get in, Michael Fassbender's become a bit of a big deal now. So you've got to hire all of them. And then on top of that, you've got the budget of Transformer level effects. If you want to do the Sentinels correctly, you've got to go to the best in town, which I assume were the same people who did the Transformers and that. So, I think we will see the Sentinels in the second trailer. I just don't think these opticals were done yet. I mean, you saw the scene of Colossus running through the X-Mansion as it's getting destroyed. I'm assuming at some point a Sentinel will be inserted into that scene. It's just not there yet.
Well, I think if they play, the Godzilla movie that came out in like 1999, like 2000, the one that was released by Americans and not the Japanese.
98.
That wasn't great, but the trailers always had like, hey, let's not show the monster until the movie actually comes out. They could play it like that in these trailers. Like they hint at it, and then the movie, it may not be great, but just as like another way to get people pumped up to see the film.
What I'm shocked about as I look at the trailer and the details of it is how close to the original comic they're being. In a lot of ways, the assassination plot is still there. That's very obvious from what Magneto.
That's the biggest part of the story.
Yeah, that plot's still there. Although I think he's like assassinating Nixon, maybe from the looks.
No, in the comic they're assassinating Robert Kelly.
Yeah, but he's like the senator in the future. So I think, but the look of this trailer looks like he's going to be assassinating Nixon, or at least one of the other presidents. So then that ties into him possibly being part of the JFK assassination, and all this.
Nixon, by the way, has the biggest nose I've seen any Nixon impersonator has had so far. I know it's a stupid point, but I don't know.
Even worse than Zack Snyder's other movie, Watchmen.
Oh yeah, they had a Nixon in that movie. I don't remember getting a Nixon to look like a really like grumpy Nixon's hard. That one was
Nope.
more old Nixon though.
Yeah, the one in Watchmen was really exaggerated and over the top. I don't think it was quite that. But no, again, I have a feeling that it's going to follow very much sort of from what they're looking at. Obviously, the main plot is obviously Wolverine going to hippie Xavier and going, "Come on, dude, what the fuck? You're supposed to be
Yeah,
Charles Xavier," and
supposed
him.
to be my buddy. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. But the other thing I think is you're going to keep flashing back to the future in very much the way that the comic did, and it's going to be this kind of Terminator-esque future where all the X-Men are going to get killed off and annihilated by Sentinels, and that's going to be your Sentinel action. I think that's going to be the B plot, and I think the stuff in the 70s is going to be your A plot of Wolverine and Xavier. I don't know where that whole thing with them in the X-Men basement's going to come in, because I didn't know that the X-Men basement was built in the 60s. Or is that a dream sequence, maybe?
Yeah, I think didn't in First Class. I know they had like a big basement area where they had a bunch of these training rooms in. I don't think they had it like in the first X-Men film though.
Oh no, it's too high tech for the 60s. The
Oh
way
yeah, way too high tech. But they had a basement sub level. They had to because
yeah,
it was top secret.
yeah.
I don't know
Uh,
how big it was. I think it was just multiple rooms. I don't know if it was just
Based on
like
the way that Xavier blows the dust off it, but I think people are confused though, but I think it will be more symbolic. I think that'll be like he's seeing Wolverine's representation of the expansion because that's what he knows it as, and then him blowing the dust off it is symbolic of him picking up sort of the crown of Xavier and
yeah,
taking that mantle. That's what it
that could be it.
from what we see. And then, of course, the other thing that leads into the fact that it's a dream sequence is, of course, there's Hank McCoy as a human.
Oh yeah, there is, isn't there? Oh,
So
man.
I think it is a
I,
dream sequence or a psychic thing where he's, doing the whole psychic plane thing.
maybe because they have like a bunch of. Maybe they're like all rushing to get. Are you talking about the scene where there's like three people and Xavier's still in his wheelchair and they go into that one little the helmet spot, the Cerebro. They go into the
Yeah.
Cerebro room. I because you see a bunch of the glass like exploding like on top of them and all that stuff. I think it's either being chased and they have to go down there to change some stuff up, or it could be a dream sequence where his mind's just going crazy and it's just
Well, I
destroying
think
everything.
maybe it's just like Wolverine showing him what the future is, and he's like, seeing what the X-Men thing's going to look like.
It could be that too. I
But
don't know. It,
obviously, it's all speculation. But again, to come back to what we do see in the trailer, we're seeing apparently 20 years in the future, and an apocalypse hasn't stopped the love triangle of Kitty, Iceman, and Rogue. She's still miffed
that
about that one 20 years later.
I thought she lost her powers.
Well, yeah, but so did Magneto.
Yeah, but he got his back.
Yeah, but if he got his back, I think we're supposed to assume that the cure didn't work.
Uh,
Like I
that's
said,
still funny.
X-Men 3 didn't happen.
Uh,
Ellen Page, I think
no,
everybody assumed that's what they were going to do anyway when Magneto had his
yeah.
powers back at the end, was that the cure didn't work. That leeches, whatever happened to him wears off.
Okay, I can see that happening. Yeah, and I've never really liked this love triangle between them. Anyways, I've always felt
Uh,
that it was kind of shoved down our throats. I'm like, Rogue's character is fine. I think her character is somewhat likable in the movies, but she's nowhere near as fun or as energetic as she is in like the TV show or in the comics,
I
and
hope
that takes it down a lot.
I hope that what they do with, I mean, this movie in a lot of ways is Singer not only coming back to the franchise and retaking the franchise, but talking about the Sentinels and things like that, he's giving the fans what they've always wanted. I mean, when he got on that conference call and he was like, "What would you like to do next?" Well, of course, Gambit and Deadpool. Yeah, you're going to say the ones that the other directors messed up, and you're going to say what everybody wants to see. So, I
Oh
think
yeah,
I think in a lot of ways he's giving everybody what they've always wanted because he never got to do it around the first time. And I think that also tees into Rogue. I would not be surprised if her having her powers back has not made her into the more kind of sassy Southern Belle, tougher character. I would like to see that be the case. Although I don't know how much screen time she's going to get, so we'll see.
yeah. Everything's depending on the screen time part of it. All the cameo stuff. It's all depending on that. Because everyone's always like, I want to see this character come on, and they're like, okay, you'll see them,
Yeah,
but you
Bishop will
won't.
be there, but he's yeah.
You'll see him do one thing, but that's about it.
He'll be
And
there to battle the Sentinels. I mean, Colossus, they've already messed that character up. You can't undo what they did
he
in
hardly says anything in the movies too. He
because
only
he's
says
not Russian.
yeah.
That's what it comes down to is they don't want him to speak because they don't want to piss people off because he's not Russian. So they just have him there to be Colossus, but he's not Peter.
We don't want him speaking like a Russian guy. That would just sound really retarded if they do
Yeah,
that.
so they've already established that he's American in X-Men 2. So I mean,
They,
you know,
I don't know. Maybe they'll do it right. Maybe they just ignore it and just say, "I learned to just grow a Russian accent over the years. It's been a lot of fun."
maybe he was Russian and then he moved to America and then now he's got more of a Russian accent in the future. Who
I
knows?
hope so. I
Not,
want like the. Oh man, do you
then
think
again,
Nightcrawler show up?
no,
No.
because I think what's his name, Mr. Cummings said he doesn't want to do it anymore because he
He
thinks,
doesn't like any of it.
well, he liked the movie, but he didn't like getting in the makeup.
Oh, it sucks. I thought he was actually one of the better parts of that
Oh
movie.
yeah, he did a superb job. I mean, that
Oh yeah.
X2 is still the one, arguably, that's the best, along with First Class. That movie did a really good job. But I mean, again, the first X-Men movie, as I saw people saw me speak about this channel, that a lot of the good stuff is there and it is good, but the problems I have with it is in plot and pacing, and it was a hit and miss movie. X-Men 2, they got it right. It was great. I mean, a couple of things, like Colossus and stuff, you can nitpick from a fan's point of view, but as a movie and as an X-Men movie, it's great.
It's fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say on a character level, X-Men 2 is the best one.
And since
Um,
Bryan Singer has stepped away from the franchise, not only is the franchise, other than the last two, has sort of gone awry and everything, and things have gone downhill. And I feel like not only that, but his career has gone downhill because he's not been
yep.
able to make a successful film since he left to do Superman Returns. We know how that went. We just got the reboot,
Yep.
and
He did like he did like Jack the Giant
which apparently,
Slayer.
yeah, that wasn't very successful, and apparently that's why he didn't direct First Class to do that movie. So, when Vaughn stepped out, he stepped in, and this is kind of his return. And I'm glad to see him, honestly, because I enjoy his movies, especially the second one.
Yeah, I think the X-Men has just kind of been his little puppies. Why not puppies, but there's doing the things that he loves to work on whenever he gets a chance to. Like when he stepped in to produce it, everyone kind of like breathed like a nice sigh of relief because it wasn't being produced by a guy who didn't know what he was doing. It was being
Yeah,
produced and like watched over by a guy who saw it like start from the beginning.
yeah, I
And
have a feeling, and we're living now in the post-Marvel world, where, and I said this in a YouTube comment on a discussion of a similar thing, in that I feel like comic movies are in a transitional period right now where the movies have become so successful that the people, and so good in quality, that the people who make them are now able to finance the movies or have enough movies so that the movies are the comics now. The movies are the core place to see these characters now because the characters are more popular than ever, but the genre is a dying breed. So
yeah,
and very much on the Marvel side of it, I think that the comics have been replaced by the movies in a lot of ways, and I think when we're looking at them announcing X-Force and or possible other ones in the future, I think that they want it to have, like, there's going to be three comic book universes. There's going to be DC, there's going to be Marvel, and there's going to be X-Men, which, to be honest, I'll be absolutely fine with because X-Men has enough popular characters in itself and enough characters to exploit from that it almost is a universe into itself. And many times in the comic, it does become a universe into itself. I think X-Men has as many characters, if not more, to exploit than DC and Marvel do. So,
if here's just a quick question. I know how Marvel is doing its Agents of Shield show. If there was a chance that Marvel or Fox had the ability to make like an X-Men TV series similar in the vein of Agents of Shield, but we saw more of the other side characters of the X-Men get like more stories and screen time, do you think it would be Do you think it would be good? Is what I'm trying to ask. Do you
I've
think
said
it
for
would work?
years that I think a teen Smallville-esque X-Men series set in the Xavier Mansion that could maybe be the New Mutants or something. You know, have a New Mutant show set in the Xavier Mansion that's kind of like a teen superhero drama. I've always thought that could work. I don't understand why they've never done it.
I
It
guess they're afraid. But Fox is a huge TV network. I don't know why they wouldn't do it.
no,
Maybe they're different Foxes. I don't know.
I
But
mean you could have it be like Xavier leaves Emma Frost in, well, even though we've had her in the movie universe. Also, you could leave, one of the lesser characters we haven't had, Banshee, let's just say, because
yeah,
tying it to Generation X, like an older version of Banshee, grown up from the First Class, like leaves him in charge of and you hire a new actor to be Banshee, and you have kind of, basically you do the Generation X show from the 90s, but you do it correctly.
yeah.
I think that could
But
work.
there's one problem though. How do you get Banshee to have those kick-ass sideburns like in the comics?
He's an
That's gonna
old
be hard.
man now. He's grown up. He's grown out of his, teen. So
Oh,
much is part of the 21st century, but somehow he's in the 60s. Look,
yeah,
yeah.
that could work.
Mm.
I just thought of an idea. I just thought it'd be a cool idea to see if they did execute that. Would our complaints of the cameo stuff be resolved? Because you'd be like, oh, they're gonna be in the TV show. It's okay.
And he could
But
do some, if you wanted Emma Frost in it, he could, I mean, the woman in it does TV, she's in Mad Men, who played her in First Class. You could have some nonsense explanation, like if Captain America can get frozen in ice, can't Emma Frost, like, overload her diamond form so she gets frozen? Yeah,
or she can change. She can influence people's minds to think that she's younger when she's actually older.
yeah,
Right?
and then you could have Emma Frost, yeah. The show could be quite good, but, well, again, I do think that Fox want to get into the race with Marvel. And I think they've already announced that I said it was going to be X-Men. They've already announced that their shared universe is going to be X-Men and Fantastic Four.
Hmm.
They're going to be in the shared universe, and they're having their own side Marvel continuity universe, which is an interesting one when you've only got two properties and you've just
Yeah.
sold two of your properties that you did have back to Marvel
Yep.
in Daredevil and Punisher.
Hmm.
But, I think it could work, and I certainly think X-Men has enough characters to support, that. Let's have an X Factor movie. Let's a fucking Excalibur movie.
Oh, X Factor TV show with
Mm,
Peter David writing it would be so good.
like a
Oh
film, yeah,
man.
with
Uh,
Madrox and
just doing like investigative like adventures. Oh, it'd be great.
mm,
Oh, I'd love it. Back onto these are we can talk about like an X-Men TV show and stuff for hours, but I think on the matter of the trailer, what we've seen, I think everything that's happened in the comic is going to be in this movie. But with the events of future, like of the previous films, like First Class and the other X-Men movies, like with Magneto, it seems like he's going to turn against some of his Brotherhood, maybe because
yeah.
the Brotherhood.
I think we've heard from Jennifer Lawrence that Mystique has left Magneto. Like the Brotherhood has split up, and Magneto's on his own at this point.
Mhm.
And he's coming to get her back or something. Like we see in the trailer, like him dragging her towards him with the handcuffs.
Yeah, which it could be it. You know, he's just trying. He's really desperate to get some help, even though he could probably do all of this on his own if he really wanted to.
So the
Yeah,
big
go ahead.
question here is the one that's been floating around: are they hitting the reset button? Are they going to essentially rewrite continuity? So, I mean, either all of the original movies didn't exist, or that it changes so that little event, because they stop this assassination, little events change in the future. So Cyclops and Jean Grey are still alive, and you end up basically the end of the movie is everything is right in the world. All the X-Men are back alive in the Xavier Mansion, and we can go on to future adventures.
I think the second that they introduce time travel, you kind of get the idea that they are going to reset everything that happened beforehand. Personally, I think that's a great idea. I think there's so much stuff that fans are disappointed in that and it seems like Bryan Singer got to tell with the first two films, and with this movie, he's getting to tell stories that he wants to tell. And with the reboot, he can respect what the fans are talking, like, have been like complaining about, and do a new interpretation of the X movies, or just give it to somebody else and just give them ideas for what they could do. From the looks of things, I think the second that the characters enter into like a new future, I can already tell they're gonna reboot everything. So yeah, I think it's a reset button for me personally.
Because it makes sense. Even though they're talking about doing a Wolverine sequel, it makes sense to me. Like the actors are getting older, all that kind of stuff. You could do a soft reboot where things have been changed enough so that Cyclops is still alive and things like that, or you could do a hard reboot and basically say, okay, we're going to make X-Men movies now, but now basically all the continuity problems are gone because time has been fixed, and anything that we want to go back on that we didn't like about the previous movies we can go back on. And if we come out with an X-Men movie that's kind of the uncanny X-Men, in the same way that Amazing Spider-Man is Amazing Spider-Man, come out with a movie called Uncanny X-Men with all new actors, it could still be within the same continuity as First Class, but we've wiped out the Ian McKellen, Patrick Stewart thing.
Yeah.
They could go either way with it, and I wouldn't be opposed to either, to be honest with you, because I want more X-Men movies in the future, and I don't. The end of X-Men 3, by the end of X-Men 3, they had damaged things so irreparably that you couldn't go forward. Whereas
Yeah.
now there's a way to fix it, either by completely resetting or by soft resetting and bringing back the characters that they messed up. If they want to suddenly have, Colossus Russian, like that, the time
Yeah.
change, it's like the new Star Trek movie. How is Carol Marcus British? Well, because time was changed. How is Khan
Time.
not Indian anymore? Well, because time, Jay. They could do anything they wanted to do and just write it away in the same way that DC have reset their continuity. And the New 52, all of a sudden, Barbara Gordon's not crippled anymore. Well, because time was altered and Flash changed things
Yeah.
ever so slightly. They could do that and get away with it because we can't complain because of time travel.
Yeah, they do. That's the best excuse they can always go for. My only issue is if they do a little bit of a time reversal thing for this film. I'm afraid that they're gonna just redo the stories that they tried to do in like 1, 2, and 3, because they tried to do the Phoenix story, they tried to do the Weapon X story, and they tried to do
Well,
like Magneto taking over the world.
Weapon X they did correctly.
Weapon X they did greatly, but I'm afraid they do a reset button situation. They're just gonna redo it. Not in the same like chronological order, but
Well, apparently we're going to get a young Stryker in this movie, so.
he's in every one of these movies now.
Yeah.
I like him, but I don't like seeing him everywhere. I guess it's fine as long as they don't shove his character down my throat like they did with X-Men Origins and X-Men 2. As long as if they do the reset button, they can tell. I'm perfectly fine with them redoing the Phoenix story, but better. And then maybe some of the other stories that they haven't been able to tell, like maybe like Wolverine's in Madripoor and he's got the eye patch on, and that's where he's been. Maybe he's like not with the X-Men, but he's like taking care of things on his own side.
I could almost see that being the James Mangold Wolverine sequel.
That could be it. That'd be awesome. He's just in like a crime alley town and he's just taking care of business. That'd be amazing.
And if you want to do like Psylocke or Jubilee, that'd be the place to do it.
Yeah. It could just be a film about Magneto and Xavier and a couple of X-Men going to certain parts of the world to like maybe find the Shadow King or something, and they meet like these other X-Men.
What if when the time is changed, Magneto and Xavier and Wolverine maybe retain their memories of the old timeline, so Magneto and Xavier make up, and then we get Magneto as the head of the school.
That'd be awesome.
Like in the 80s.
What if we get like an Age of Apocalypse, new future? They change this future to go back, and it's just Age of Apocalypse. And Apocalypse is just sitting on a throne and goes,
because
"Good job."
It's in almost a way where it's have you ever seen that Star Trek episode where the woman's got to die, and if otherwise Hitler would take over? You know what I mean? Basically that kind of thing where because peace what happened with mutants and because the world didn't end, everybody's guard was lowered and it was open for Apocalypse, and then by changing it, they've made it into almost the end of Wolverine and the X-Men.
Yeah.
And then that sets up for an Age of Apocalypse movie. That could be like the post-credit scene, is you just see like Mr. Sinister bow before this shadowy figure and you realize it's Apocalypse. But the only thing I could say with that is the problem is they're releasing an Age of Ultron movie, and I don't think they'd want to have that title. That's all.
Screw it, just do it. They just do it anyways. It's like, well, we're making Age of Ultron. It's like, yeah, we're making ours is longer. Age of Apocalypse.
Well, it's called Age of Ultron because of Age of Apocalypse, which is
yeah,
because that's what the comic was called. Yeah, but that's another argument for another day. And also, Ultron's not going to look like Ant-Man anymore. He's going to look like Iron Man. But
damn it.
Yeah.
No.
But, well, we'll see what happens to that one. But there's so many possibilities that they're opening up just by doing time travel. I love that we're getting Sentinels. I love that we're getting all this stuff. But it also, again, it brings all this excitement for the future, because it's like, okay, now the creative well has been opened, and now any of the things that because of the worse prequels and sequels and all that other nonsense was ruined, like Gambit and Deadpool and things like that, you can do them properly now because time travel,
It's only possible if they had all this creative excitement can only happen if they hit the reset button. If not, we're stuck with like a really, kind of mixed up continuity of the X-Men, and I don't know how it's gonna go.
Or this could just be like the last movie, and they do almost this movie's like Crisis on Infinite Earth, but for X-Men.
X-Men. Yeah.
So something happens at the end that wipes out all of the X-Men movies, and this is kind of their last big hurrah, and then the next movie's a reboot.
That could be it. I don't know. It could be endless, and this is only the first trailer.
Yeah.
So we have to see what the next one's going to be like.
Absolutely, but talking about the movie itself, obviously, rather than just what's coming next, because that's almost the temptation. Like everybody's going, everybody's speaking about Batman and Superman. They're like, well, there's going to be a movie with Nightwing in it. It's like, Jesus Christ, let's get this movie right first.
Yeah.
And in that vein with this one, again, I'm skeptical in that there's so many characters and so many possible subplots, but I have a feeling that it's going to all revolve around the Xavier story, and
which I'm fine with.
Yeah, I think young Magneto is going to possibly be married with a child, and that's going to be Quicksilver, and then we're going to see the older Quicksilver in the future. I think that's what they're doing.
I hope so.
Because
I think one of the cool interactions in comics is seeing Quicksilver kind of get into fights with Magneto. I think that's always fun to see.
What's your take on this whole thing where this is the character they're fighting over? Quicksilver.
Quicksilver? I think he's such a popular, not hugely popular, but he's really a popular Avengers character and X-Men character, or related character, that I personally don't care about the whole thing. If it's that integral to the story that the Avengers movies is trying to tell, then fine. Let the Avengers keep him, because it doesn't seem like he's that important to the...
There is so many other Avengers they could do. Why do the one character that you
Scarlet Witch is in it
that you can't do fully? Because you could have Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch in it, and I'm sure they're going to look far more like their comic book counterparts than the ones in than just Quicksilver, because we're not getting Scarlet Witch in this. Then just Quicksilver is going to be in Days of Future Past, but the one in Days of Future Past is going to have the character. He's going to be able to say that he's Magneto's son. You can do that thing with him. If you take away that he's a mutant, and you take away that he's Magneto's son, what's left for Quicksilver?
Nothing. He's an ass.
So they're almost going to have to create a new character for him in Avengers, and because X-Men's going to be able to do the correct Quicksilver. And I don't know how, I know this is the age of the internet, everything, and everybody knows all that stuff, but I don't know if this is not going to confuse casual audiences. I think casual audiences are going to get very confused about the fact of like, isn't this the same? Oh my god, that means that Wolverine's going to be in Avengers 3 because that's the same character. Yeah.
Yep. It's going to happen. They did that with Spider-Man ever since No one really, anybody who's not like a devoted comic book fan or a movie, like a comic book movie fan, doesn't understand the copyright thing. So they're just like, well, why don't we just see Hellboy show up in Avengers 3? He could just be in there. I don't know. That'd be pretty cool.
Like they think it's like the most ultimate amalgam universe. Yeah.
Thinking about it, Hellboy and the Avengers would be pretty fucking cool.
I think he'd be better off in the Justice League Dark, wouldn't he? That's coming out.
He'd be awesome in that. Like Mike, what's his name? The guy who plays him. Ron Perlman.
Yeah.
Ron Perlman in Justice League Dark with Guillermo del Toro would be fucking awesome. See Pacific Rim robots showing up.
Yeah.
Oh, anything Guillermo del Toro has worked on is in Justice League Dark. That would be awesome. Oh, I'd watch that in a heartbeat. But no, I just think like the whole thing with Quicksilver, I understand to a degree why he's in the Avengers, because in the comics he's part of the second roster that goes and joins the Avengers.
Yeah, but they haven't even done the founding members yet. They haven't even done Wasp and Ant-Man yet.
Is she going to be in the second one?
No.
What? What is it with them hating Wasp? And
I'm only guessing, but I have a feeling it's to do with the fact that she's a woman who shrinks to Wasp's side and stings people. I think that one is a little harder. Then again, I say that, but they're doing Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, with the talking raccoon.
So, I maybe it's just that they'd find a harder sell to fit those two in the Avengers is all. I think.
If they can make a giant like slug monster, if they can put Thanos in there and have everybody go crazy over Thanos, that I'm positive they can make Wasp work. And since Josh Whedon is so good at writing women, I think that would be awesome because she's like one of the more comedic characters on the Avengers roster and one of the more stronger characters in the Avengers. I don't know why he wouldn't put her in there.
Well, apparently she was in his original script, and the studio said no, it's got to be Scarlet Witch.
God damn it. Scarlet Witch is fine too. I actually think Scarlet Witch is awesome, but the Wasp is pretty important. If you're gonna have, is Hank Pym in it? Is he gonna be the Avengers?
No, he's going to have his own movie afterwards.
Why would you have an Ultron movie not have Hank Pym in it?
Because it's going to be an altered Iron Man suit.
Oh, god damn! That's what makes Hank Pym a better character is with Ultron because he made the most. Oh, damn it!
They're giving it over to Tony Stark instead because he's the highest paid actor.
God damn it! No.
But anyway, back to X-Men.
Yeah, we were on a whole other. We were talking about the Avengers for a long time.
I mean, we've seen a lot of pictures of Magneto and all that kind of stuff. I've yet to see one picture of him in the costume.
Yeah, I think didn't they show it in the first class at the end where he's kind of got like
he's got the whole costume in first class. But I mean, I've not seen it in this movie, like any pictures or trailers. I mean, Mac Fassbender said at the Comic-Con that he is going to be in the helmet and costume, but I've not seen any footage of him in it.
I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to get people excited when they do it. They're too scared to actually.
Maybe it's going to be like, I'm only just speculating, but maybe, as I say, he's married with Magna or whatever the fuck she's going to be called in this version, and he almost is doing a double life where he's got this family life, but he's doing all this assassination stuff, and then it's almost at the end he kind of suits up for the final battle kind of thing. I could see that.
Maybe because thinking about it in the scenario that he's going to be involved in, I think you can't make Magneto seem. You can't make Magneto seem kind of like secretive and stealthy when he's in the costume at the JFK assassination spot.
No,
he's got to be inconspicuous, and he can't be wearing a giant purple.
Isn't that what he's about? Isn't that like
it is
ripping the roof off and floating down and going, "Oh, I am Magneto." That's kind of his thing, but.
Yeah, maybe in the movie because in First Class he was more stealthy and he was more secretive. I think he's keeping that motive in this movie a little bit higher. But I think when he's like gonna make like a public, and I don't know, that is weird. That's a good point. In the comics, he does that all the time. Maybe
that's what's going to be in the next trailer. Maybe this trailer's the humanness sort of, catching people who aren't comic fans sort of trailer. Maybe the next movie, when they start introducing the Sentinels and stuff, maybe we're going to see more of the kind of the comic bookiness. Speaking of which, Wolverine, for the first time, I mean, I know there was that deleted scene. I don't know if you know about this, but
The costume, yeah,
there was a
the mask.
deleted scene in Wolverine where apparently, and I've seen pictures of it, where Mariko gives him his comic book costume mask,
Oh,
and that never happened because they deleted it because he's not wearing it in Days of Future Past. But in Days of Future Past, he's wearing a sleeveless top, so it's much closer to his comic costume than any of the versions we've had in the past. It's certainly not the
yeah,
leather thing that we had in the other movies, which
yeah.
I really like the future costumes. Actually, I think they look pretty cool.
I think they're okay for me personally. I just want them to go with what the Avengers are doing and actually give them the costumes. But
I don't think we're
yeah,
ever going to get that. I think Matthew Vaughn went towards that for the past ones, and I think that we're going to get that in like the first class ones, maybe, because of course they're
mhm.
not the X-Men at this point. But I think Singer is another one of those ones that's ashamed of the costumes, and I think Vaughn embraced them a bit. I don't think Singer will, and I don't think we're ever going to see the characters in those costumes like you'd imagine unless it gets sold back to Marvel. That's the only way.
Can can you imagine he like if at the end of the Wolverine movie he actually does put it on and like in the first X-Men movie they have like a reshoot and every scene just has like Hugh Jackman in that outfit and everyone's got like all these
Well,
dark suits on.
the mask
Oh,
doesn't make sense. I don't need the mask.
I would love it. I don't care if it makes sense. I love that mask.
I
That mask
know,
is so
but then again, I suppose Captain America wears a mask, and there's no real reason. But you know,
yeah.
I mean, again, that comes back to Marvel. I think if X Men revolve back to Marvel, which is not going to happen, because as we said,
Yeah.
20th Century Fox is using this as their flagpole. If it ever went back to Marvel, they'd do a rebooted one where they were, I'd imagine, there'd be a Marvel movie where it'd be the actual original first five, and it'd be much more of a comic booky movie, and then they'd, I think you could do Marvel would do a great job with it, but I don't think it's ever going to happen.
No, I don't think it will ever happen.
At least not until we're old.
At least till release 80. When we're 80, then it will happen.
Yeah,
But
then
I think,
Wolverine will come on in the mask, and we're like, yeah.
and then whereas old people are like, I was waiting for this.
Yeah, 60 years. Now,
We've been waiting so long.
speaking of which, with Wolverine and his costume and things like that, he had his claws chopped off
Did
in
he?
Wolverine. Have you not seen Wolverine?
I have. You can spoil it, but I have not seen it yet.
In Wolverine, the Silver Samurai chops his adamantium claws off
How?
because he has like an adamantium heated up sword. Listen,
The listen part got me.
listen.
Oh.
Right, okay. The majority of the Wolverine is
Mhm.
actually quite good. They did a
I've
really good
heard.
job with
Yeah.
the Japanese thing and it's much more of a character drama piece. However, the last 20 minutes is like a completely different movie, and it goes from this dramatic, artistic Japanese character story, to all
Mhm.
of a sudden there's a silver samurai that's a giant robot with an old man in it, and they have a comic book fight and he chops his claws off.
How
That
is that possible?
yeah, it just changes. But yeah, but anyway, he gets his claws chopped off, and apparently the reason is that the director James Mangold wants to do a sequel where he's going to have the bone claws. Now,
What?
yes, apparently he likes the bone claws.
That's the bone claws are the worst part about Wolverine.
They're the part that make the least sense. Yes,
Yeah.
it made
Oh.
sense when they were actually supposed to be weapons and not, you know,
Oh.
somehow they
Also,
mold.
also in the Wolverine, doesn't he like lose his healing factor?
Yeah, but he gets it back.
But like, someone like made this as a joke, but then I started thinking about it. Like, wouldn't he get like metal poisoning in his body if he didn't have,
It was
you
like
know?
literally 24 hours and he gets it. Like he's got some bug in him. He reaches in, he pulls it out, and then he's not got it, and then he's fine. And that Viper character, by the way,
She's bad.
she's really bad. Like she was Batman and Robin bad.
Oh shit, that's really bad. You
Like
can't.
it's really jarring. Like the rest of the movie is this very sort of serious, dramatic piece, and she walks on and she's doing like Uma Thurman.
Poison Ivy.
It's not,
Oh, that's so cool. Oh man, is Silver Samurai Bane? Is he go
well,
bomb?
no, he's more I guess set up for the Sentinels being a giant silver robot. I don't know
What
what.
year is this set in?
Like now,
Now?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was like in the '60s, and it's just like a giant like
No, it's
Japanese robot.
set after X-Men 4. Like
Okay.
Wolverine's emo about Jean being dead.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. He's Cyclops now.
Yeah,
Awesome.
pretty much. But that brings to the question in, is he going to have the bone claws in the future? I guess it doesn't matter unless we see him in a fight in the future, which I think we probably like. How can you have Sentinels and not have Wolverine climb up a Sentinel's arm?
Yeah, and chopping its head off.
Yeah, you kind of can't do that. So I guess they will. But
No,
again,
what we'll see in Days of Future Past is him climbing up on the Sentinel, him taking his bone claws, and him trying to cut the head off. Just him like hitting it a couple times, and he can't do it, and it's just scenes where he's just whipping it.
well, of course, in the past he's going to have the bone claws anyway because it's before he has the procedure. So
Yeah.
But for the future, I've always thought that Magneto's there. So couldn't Magneto just take a bit off his elbow and put it on his claws?
Maybe it'd be painful. I don't think audiences want to see. Well,
No, but it's set 20 years after Wolverine.
Yeah,
And they get together at the end of Wolverine, so this is 20 years later. In those 20 years, I'd imagine Magneto probably fixed his claws for him.
Maybe.
They probably just got some adamantium and, stick them out, and he just molds them on.
Magneto might just be a dick and say, "You want your medal back? Too bad." And like Wolverine just keeps asking for the medal, and he just keeps walking away, saying,
So it begs the question. I know this question has been answered in many, 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 many comics because they build like plastic Sentinels and stuff. How is Magneto just not a one-man Sentinel wrecking machine? Like the initial Sentinels must have all been destroyed thanks to Magneto until they figured out to make them out of plastic.
I don't know. I don't know. Magneto should be like just killing every single one of the Sentinels, which he usually does most of the time. But then they come up with like a small like little dart thing they'll shoot at him, and they'll just like take his powers away for a little bit, and they'll just kidnap him. But
well, I mean, we saw in X-Men 3 that they had plastic guns and stuff, so maybe in the development they make plastic ones by the time we get to the future. I mean, Boulevard Trask is going to be in the movie in the 70s, sorry, and he's going to be played by Peter Dinklage, who's in Game of Thrones.
He should be. He should be great in the film, no doubt. I think he can do a really effective performance. I think the idea of Sentinels is cool. Plastic Sentinels is even cooler. But going into like, I know this is comic movie, but going into it in a more realistic set of way, how are you gonna make a really effective plastic robot? I mean, has that ever been done before?
Like you can make plastic sort of metal. I think that's possible.
Okay, plastic.
Like metal, plastic that can imitate metal and doesn't have magnetic qualities. I think that is actually rather possible. Yeah. I also, coming down to realism, let's just be honest. I'm impressed that they're doing Sentinels because we've always wanted to see them, but I want to see the scene where Peter Dinklage turns around to the president and says, "This mutant problem, we've got to sort it." Okay, what, with tanks, with armies? No. What we need is giant robots.
He just goes, oh man, he just doesn't say, he keeps like, what do we need, tanks? And Peter Dinklage just stares at him the whole time, and he waits till he's done, and there's a long pause, and he's like, giant robots. But not just robots, but plastic giant robots.
Because they're the magnetic one, plastic giant robots, and they shoot like energy beams from their hands.
He's in the room just making like sound effect noises, going like.
I know that this is like an extreme future and stuff like that, and that ad that they did where they showed the Sentinel like protecting people on a beach was pretty awesome with the Trask Industries and stuff. I just want to know, are they going to have that kind of wink at the camera where they're going, giant robots? And especially this being in the 70s, they're like, no, like what?
They're like giant robots, and Peter Dinklage is like giant robots.
But again, it's X-Men, so we got to have them. It's going to be awesome because we want to see the Sentinels. So
yeah, I hope it just turns out great. That's what I want it all to be. I wouldn't care if the scene that we were talking about is ridiculous or not. If that's in there, I'd just give it a thumbs up. That'd be perfect.
I can imagine Singer doing it because he did that. What would you rather prefer, yellow spandex? He's always
Yeah,
been
yeah.
the guy to kind of poke fun at it, and at the
Oh,
same
that'd be
time, let's
great.
take it seriously. But I mean, my hopes this movie. Obviously I'm the huge X-Men guy, and
Mhm.
the fact that we're getting all the characters finally in one movie, in one place, we're finally getting Sentinels, we're finally getting Singer return to the franchise. It's almost a perfect storm to, have the ultimate pervert X-Men movie that's like the X-Men movie of X-Men movies. And hopefully they succeed. Hopefully this is everything we want it to be and more. It's the launching pad either to continue the franchise or to restart the franchise, and X-Men will be as popular as Marvel and DC is, or at least Batman is.
I
Um,
hope I hope so. You know, if they make smart decisions, then I bet you it's going to be a great film, just in general. And the future for the X-Men, if this goes well, this is basically the Man of Steel for the Fox X-Men movies. If it goes well, then the future is looking pretty good.
yeah, yeah. Hopefully it's not as decisive as Man of Steel, but
Yeah,
then again, Wolverine can get away with anything if people are like, yeah, that's Wolverine. Wolverine breaking
yeah.
someone's neck's like, yeah, Thursday.
Wolverine getting bone claws for the people is just going to be great.
Oh,
Maybe.
mm.
I don't know.
So yeah, I mean, I like the tone that the trailer set. I hear what we're getting, and hopefully it's awesome. Anything else?
As long as they don't have that one song that they played in the trailer in the movie, I'm fine. Because they play
That
that
was
song
no,
like
that was from a different movie. That was like Sunshine.
I know they play it and everything. That's what I'm saying. I don't want them to play that song in the
Do you
film.
know what the movie should open with if they really want a geek
The
fanboy?
X-Men theme.
They should start with
Yeah. No,
that.
it would be even better. They have, it'd be great. They like start with that. They start with that theme, and then they have like the Evolution song, which is also pretty good.
Yeah.
Then after that, they have the Pride of the X-Men theme song.
Oh God.
X-Men.
Man, expand the way.
Oh, that'd be so
Oh,
good.
good lord. Now I'd imagine. I mean, who's composing this? Do we know?
I have no idea.
Let me go look at IMDb.
I think it's what's his name?
If it is it the same guy who did the first movies? Because I won't be surprised since it's Singer if we saw the return of like the theme from the first two movies.
Yeah.
It's that a theme, didn't it?
It was a pretty. I think the original X-Men film. John Ottman. I think he did. What else did he do? He did the Last Stand theme, which was an okay theme. It was okay.
Oh,
Let's
okay.
see.
Hmm.
Where
Yeah,
is
yeah,
it?
yeah.
He's okay. He's not bad.
Hmm.
Uh,
I'm just having a look through this character page now and seeing if there's any.
yeah, he did X-Men 2. X-Men 2.
Oh,
He did.
okay. Havoc's going to be in this movie. Obviously, he's going to be just part of the younger X-Men cast. Are they
Yeah,
going to use time travel in any sort of way? Are we going to have like a Kyle Reese type thing, Kyle Reese, John Connor type thing with
I hope so.
Cyclops and Havoc?
If they do include it, I think it'd be pretty cool. Maybe.
Like, is Havoc going to be Cyclops' dad?
Oh, if he's his dad, that'd just be creepy. Maybe.
Mm.
Not creepy because you want to see the brotherly, like both love and rivalry going on. I don't want to see him being his dad, and then I don't know. It could work.
I do apologize. It's not. Yeah, Sunspot is in the movie. Robert Costa, because we were speaking about who's in the trailer earlier. Warpath is also in the movie. James Proudstar.
Oh yeah, Warpath. He's the one with the little eye makeup. Yeah. He should be pretty good.
Played by Boo Boo Stewart.
Boo Boo Stewart.
That's the name of the actor.
Oh man, does it have quotations around it, or is
No,
it that's
no,
actual
no,
name?
that's his actual name. I'm
Oh my god,
it's
that
Asian.
that either that man is like the most emotionally depressed person ever, or he's like the strongest kid ever. Because anybody with the first name like that turns out like they end up being like super tough people.
Yeah, I mean, all
Can you
these characters are just obviously going to just be in the background. I think they are going to be there to be like, Bishop's going to walk on screen and say, "Oh, the Sentinels are advancing on our position. We should go." Etc. They're going to be the guys there, and we're going to see them in the battle showing off their powers. That's what I want. I hope we do get it. I want to see a giant X-Men versus Sentinel battle where they're all throwing their powers at the Sentinel. You know, you've got to have that.
You have to have it. It's the main. Every time you look up an X-Men image on the internet, you see them fighting a Sentinel, or you see a Sentinel head in the ground. I think besides Magneto and Apocalypse, the Sentinels are the most popular part of the X-Men, and besides
That have not been
Wolverine.
done yet. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's them Gambit and Deadpool that have not been done, or at least not done right. Yeah.
Yeah. If they make it work well, I mean, then
And
go
hell,
for it.
speaking of Gambit, he says he wants to do him. That guy who played him, sorry, I can't remember his name right now. His career has not gone well.
I know. Oh man, he's had like 8 supposedly good flagship films where he's the main guy, and every one of them's kind of bombed.
Yeah.
And it's not his fault
No,
because
he's
every
good.
time he's great in them. I think everyone hates John Carter. I love John Carter. I think John Carter is an awesome movie, but everyone thinks he did like the Batman voice. And
my
stuff.
point to almost kind of the fact that they've got Ellen Page in. Ellen Page was a good part of a bad movie in the same way that I think if they wanted to do Gambit, I think you could still have him be played by that guy. Let me look his name up so I'm not just calling him that guy.
Yeah, I love the guy. I just think he was in Friday Night Lights, and he's one of the best parts of that show. Let's see, Taylor Kitsch.
Taylor Kitsch. There we go. Yeah, Taylor Kitsch. I think you could still have him play Gambit. I think you could still have him play Gambit, but maybe have him do a bit more of an accent.
Yeah, I think he was the one part that everyone was talking about once the X-Men Origins Wolverine was done. They're like, man, that movie sucked, but Gambit was good.
But how little he was in it.
Yeah, he was only in it for like a couple of scenes. And that was it.
Yeah.
He was the cameo spot yet again, except he had a little bit bigger role. But that was it.
And I think Deadpool might be an X-Force.
Yeah, I'm not feeling good about X-Force. It's being written by the guy who did Kick-Ass 2, and Kick-Ass 2, in my personal opinion, sucked. I didn't.
I actually quite liked it. I mean, I didn't think it was as clever as the first movie, obviously, but I think that it worked on just a kick-ass. Pun intended. It worked on that kind of level where it was just a fun time, kind of superhero parody action flick.
I think what made Kick-Ass bad was this. There's one scene that kind of like I got the idea of what the film was going for or what it tried to do. There's a scene between the motherfucker and his uncle, and he keeps like, or it's a scene before his uncle comes on, and his mom is in the suntan machine, and he keeps kicking it, but he keeps doing it and waits for like a punchline to occur, but he keeps doing it and he keeps kicking it, and he keeps like screaming and screaming, and it's like they want me to laugh at it, and I'm like, I'm not getting anything from it. This movie's just not making me laugh. I'm trying to enjoy it. The most enjoyable parts of the film are the scenes where the girl throws a lawnmower at a car, and
yeah, that's the best parts of the movie is where it embraces being a comic book film.
Yeah,
where it straight up is a comic book film. Yeah.
Whereas in the first film, I enjoyed the ending scene. I thought the best parts of the first movie were when they brought on comic elements but showed the realistic side effects to it. Yeah. Like the scene where he gets stabbed and then he gets hit by a car. I mean, as unrealistic as that might be, like getting hit by a car after you get stabbed, you'd be dead. But it's just it's funny because those things happen at complete randomness.
I mean, the connection, of course, is Matthew Vaughn, who did First Class.
I was about to say it, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do we think that it could be good, or is it just going to be a throwaway sequel along the same lines of Wolverine, where it's just going to be a dumb action flick? And
for who's in it, first of all, who's in the X-Force movie?
Well, we haven't got any
or like character wise, so we have like nothing on it.
No, but I'd imagine it would be Deadpool, Cable, Domino. I'd imagine it'd be Rob. I'd imagine
Liefeld's in it.
I'd imagine it'd be
Rob Liefeld's in the X-Force movie.
Yeah, I'd imagine it will be Rob Liefeld's characters from the.
Rob Liefeld is playing Deadpool, confirmed.
Oh, good lord.
Oh, that you know what? I'd pay to see that. That smile he has in those pictures on the internet. He's got that stupid smile. He's got that when he takes the mask off. He's just smiling at you, and then he just puts the mask back on and gets back to work.
Yeah.
As long as the that can tell from the writer who tried to make Kick-Ass fun and enjoyable. I'm gonna assume he's gonna put in as much Deadpool as possible, because anytime you go on YouTube and type in Deadpool, you see like 8 million viewed videos of just Deadpool being retarded. I enjoy Deadpool, but people are gonna try really hard to make him funny.
Yeah, and
And
I don't want the fourth wall breaking stuff. Deadpool, if you want to do that, he's got to have his own movie, because I don't want that. I never have enjoyed Deadpool, and I've said this on the roundtables. I've never enjoyed him as that kind of winking at the camera kind of thing. You know, if you want to do that, fair enough. Do it in a different movie. I prefer him as where he's the comic character on the team, but he's actually part of the serious story, like he was in the latest X-Force.
Yeah, in that he was. I think many people consider that to be the most recent best Deadpool that was shown in comics. I just this movie. I love Cable. I know they're gonna like make him more Terminator-esque, which is not what I want him to be. They're gonna make him kind of like strategically based and really kind of clumsy. Not clumsy. I don't know how they're gonna do like Cable, but I know they're gonna get him wrong. I know they're gonna get Deadpool.
Are we going to get a post-credit scene in X-Men where it's going to set up Cable in the future, maybe?
You know what? I didn't think about that. Maybe we could have like a quick cameo, like at the end of the credit scene where it's Apocalypse, and then maybe Cable shows up. Maybe, because Cable is the main guy who's trying to kill Apocalypse.
Well, knowing how these movies usually go, however, just because of the... Look, I love First Class. I love what First Class did and is one of the best ones, but when you saw that cast list, you were like, what?
Yeah.
Angel Salvadori? What, are you joking? Like knowing how
the shit out of me.
Yeah, knowing how these things usually go down, I would not be surprised if the X-Force cast list will be like Phantom X, you know?
Mm-hmm. It's gonna have like 50 extra characters in there, and you're like, how the fuck is this gonna work?
Yeah.
It's going to have Phantom X, because he's the most popular recent character, and he's going to be hard to make work. Really hard, but I think from a film perspective...
It'll have Hope Summers in it, if it won't make sense. It'll have... who else could be in it? Dog. Just a random-ass character from the X-Men universe, yeah.
Who's Dog?
Wolverine's...
Is he the teleporting guy?
No, Wolverine's brother, who may or may not be Sabretooth.
Oh, God, no. Please, no. Please, God. Don't let him in there.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
That's what I'm saying. They'll just pull from all these fringe characters. Like, there'll be, like, Jubilee, and, you know, it'll be random ones.
Jubilee in the X-Force would be... She's a vampire in the X-Force movie.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only way they can make it work.
That's how you get the Twilight audience in, see?
Perfect. We got 2 down, or 3 down, actually. Who else do we have?
Yeah.
We have Deadpool, of course. We have, who else? We've got Maggot. Maggot's a great choice for the X-Force character.
Dust, maybe.
Dust. She can just sprinkle some dust on people when she kills them. That's perfect. Yeah. Who else do we have? We've also got Dazzler. She can sprinkle some light on people.
Oh, man. Dazzler. They've got to... You know how they... I love how... Almost bringing it back to Vaughn when we talk about Days of Future Past. I love how they're keeping that element of what Vaughn did with First Class, where it's set in its time period. So First Class was a 60s movie, and this is very much a 70s movie, and they're filming it, some of the angles and the way that they're shooting it is like a 70s movie. They're all in
Disco
70s.
Scene in X-Men Days of Future Past confirmed.
Yeah.
Dazzler.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're having people, you know, almost imitating, you know, they're setting it in historical events of the 70s and stuff. I like that a lot, and they're, you know, imitating 70s movies in a way. And I think he's going to go for that kind of pre-Star Wars 70s, where it's kind of the dour, you know, Easy Rider kind of 70s, where it's, you know, very sort of depressing and
that'd be cool.
That, you know, I think that's what they're going to go for.
Give us a proper excuse to see Wolverine on a motorcycle and make it cool.
Yeah, and you brought up Dazzler. The reason it made me think about it is they could then do as the third in the trilogy, they could do a 80s movie where you could have like Mohawk Storm, and you could have Dazzler, because I don't think Dazzler would work in any movie that wasn't like an 80s movie. She's got to have like the big 80s hair, and yeah.
Oh man, Dazzler would not work. Actually, you know what? Dazzler might work in a current modern film. She could be the dubstep special effects supervisor. shooting lights at people.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
"Ah, ah, ah."
that'd be a power. Her and Banshee would get together, and they'd put on performances of dubstep.
Dubstep. Dazzler, Banshee, Days of Future Past, dubstep performance confirmed. Performed by
That's how they
Skrillex.
tear the Sentinels apart. It's like,
Guys, we can't beat these Sentinels. What do we do? Banshee's like, I've got a plan. Dubstep kills all the Sentinels. Movie's over. Day is saved.
yeah.
I would. Oh man, we're predicting this whole movie.
Whoa, they'd all just fall apart. Yeah.
Whoa. Sentinels are like, can't take epic dubstep. Must explode. Boom.
Yeah. But no, I mean, just to wrap it up, are we thinking we're going to get any more? Are we thinking we're going to get any characters that haven't been announced? Are we going to get like a Cyclops cameo? Are we going to get any of these other characters that haven't been announced to come back?
Looking back on it, I think the only film that really kind of put in, I think that this is like a completely different situation, but like in the movie Seven, they didn't announce who the killer was, and like they showed that it's I forgot the actor's name. Kevin is a what's his face? The guy who played Lex Luthor in Superman Returns. It was that guy, Spacey, and they didn't show his name until like the ending credits showed up. He was the last name. So but now knowing it in modern times, every new cast member that's in a film is usually announced.
Yeah, I mean, we've already had the reports like James Marsden seen getting off a plane with Halle Berry. So I was like, oh, well, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we have like the ending scene, like I said, is sort of everything's right in the world and Cyclops is back alive, and he walks in, and that's the big surprise of the movie is that Cyclops is still alive. I would not be surprised if we get that.
That'd be great, but it wouldn't be. I don't think it'd be as surprising as if the internet had already. The internet's going to tell us about who's going to be in the film or not, unless they're super secretive and they just don't. I don't know. Knowing
just be careful with it, yeah. Just
but yeah, I could see some surprising people coming in because the X-Men, because the cast that's coming in is so big and wide, and we don't know who's going to play who. It could be anybody. Anybody can play anybody. I don't know.
And especially if they're going to start messing with time, anybody could show up. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
we said Apocalypse.
Yeah, Apocalypse would be the biggest surprise. It'd be the Thanos of the Avengers.
Yeah, the post-credit scene teasing Age of Apocalypse. Book it. Do it.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic. I'd watch an Apocalypse film.
Who would? There was discussion that kind of when I was thinking about doing this video, Eric and James did a video. Captain Logan did a video where they spoke about who would play Mr. Sinister.
Mm-hmm.
You know who I want? I want the guy who played thingies. In Harry Potter. The bad kid.
Snape?
No, God, no! Can you imagine him?
He'd be great as Sinister. What are you talking about?
Oh man, what's his name?
Okay, which character are you talking about?
It's one of those ones. Snape. What's Snape's character's name? The guy who plays him. Alan Rickman. Alan Rickman as Mr. Sinister.
Confirmed.
No.
Internet goes crazy. Highest viewed video on the internet. Bam.
Yeah. No. The guy who played. Oh my God, all the names are just escaping out of my head.
Which character does he play?
Malfoy. His dad.
Malfoy?
No.
Oh, his dad would be perfect as
his
Mr.
dad
Sinister.
as Mr. Sinister.
Oh man.
Jason Isaacs.
Yeah. He'd be fucking great. I can picture the makeup on him now. If they do the makeup right, he'd be a perfect Mr. Sinister.
You've got to have him British because Nathaniel Essex, he's got to be British.
Yeah, I think he was a not Librarian, but he's I think it was like in the 1800s, 1700s, or 1600s even, where he's just like a very up-to-do Englishman kind of guy. I think he is British. Yeah, he'd make that role awesome. He'd make it so good.
Yeah.
Or even better. I know a better guy who could play the role of Mr. Sinister. Dr. Cox from Scrubs. He'd be perfect.
Yeah. Or Benedict Cumberbatch.
Oh, he's in everything now, though.
I know.
He'd yell at me all the time and just go, I'm Khan.
No, you're not. You're not Indian. Shut up. Neither was the original guy, but he was at least Latino.
The original guy who was
Montalban.
Khan, he's gonna be Mr. Sinister. He's gonna come back from the
He's
dead.
dead.
I know he's gonna come back from the dead. That's the surprise twist.
Mr. Sinister just walks on screen. What is it? My last breath I spit at thee. I'm gonna leave you as you left me, buried alive. And then Xavier just looks up into the screen, looks up into the sky. Sinister. Yeah.
You know what would make that work is if they did like the Tupac thing where it's just like a holographic image of him and they have him in all the makeup and stuff, but all I can say is like Star Trek 2 lines. So like when he's talking to Mr. Sinister, he's like, I have you now, Dr. McCoy, or I have you now, Kirk, or something. And Apocalypse just responds to it like it's a natural flowing conversation. I'd watch that in a heartbeat. Damn. Dude, the future is unpredictable at the moment.
Yeah.
Anything can happen.
Yeah. Now I'm just imagining Mr. Sinister coming out with Khan lines now. Just you remember me, Admiral. I can't help but be touched. I have remember you. Anyway, so with that said, I'll go ahead and wrap it up before we come up with any more crazy ideas to how to ruin the X-Men franchise.
They need to improve it completely.
We'll be back with a roundtable, I'm sure, at some point, and we'll do a movie review or something. I mean, I've seen Thor: The Dark World. I have much to say on it, but
you don't like it too much.
I liked it. I haven't got much to say about it. I liked it. It was fine.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we'll talk about that. I personally really enjoyed it, but that'll include for even like more lengthy conversation about it.
Yeah, we'll do something like that. So we'll see you guys very soon. Thank you, and catch you later.
All right.